Gambia's Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education is on final touches on plans to reopen schools for examination classes. Doctors in Nigeria have begun sit-down strike on what they say government's failure to meet their demands amid the impact of COVID-19. And South Africa is conducting mass testing exercise to trace all possible cases of COVID-19. This and more coming on The World Today. Hello, this is Africa TV and you're watching the World Today News Bulletin. I am Amadou Kante. Many thanks for joining us, and now the news in detail. Now, barely 3 weeks after the government announcement the reopening of schools for examination classes across the country, the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education together with schools authorities have drawn a roadmap to that effect. During a board meeting on Tuesday, parents were among those who specified their demands to ensure the safety of children in this period of coronavirus. Details of that in this report by Julden Suare.
The Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education and partners began the discussion on modalities to ensure the safety of students and teachers ahead of the reopening of schools, starting with examination class across upper basic schools. Secretary General of National Commission for UNESCO NATCOM, Usman Senghor, said during the meeting on Tuesday that the concern of all relevant partners such as the Ministry of Health, teachers, parents and students are being examined.
The non-validating of this academic year has a lot of implications. One is a huge financial implication that the government of the Gambia will not be able to sustain for the next coming years. That means that we're going to duplicate grades. For example, if you don't open schools right now, that means that next year we'll have 2 grade 12s and next year we are going to have 2 grade 9s. Technically, the education system will not be able to accommodate such kind of situation. That is why we have to open schools and then allow at least transition.
The UNESCO representative has noted that the ministry has developed protocols for teachers and students in cognizance of WHO guidelines on preventive measures for COVID-19.
So we're going to ensure that in each schools we have at least no more than 20 students in the classroom. That is a reassurance to parents, and the Ministry of Education is working with partners to ensure that all the necessary sanitation is in place. We're going to fumigate schools, we're going to provide hand washing facilities, and then also we're going to train teachers to at least test students, ensure that whoever is sick in the school will be quickly identified, so and the necessary measures are taken.
Speaking on behalf of the Gambia Teachers Union, Alhaji B. Sama said that the teachers have been participating in the emergency response at the level of the Ministry of Education since the outbreak of the virus to ensure that the right measure is in place for them to continue their work.
But there are certain issues, particularly with the WHO preventive mechanisms, that we crave on the indulgence of the ministry and the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education and then the Ministry of Health to put in place so that the safety of our teachers would be put before the interest of the education, because once one teacher contracts the virus, the possibility of it spreading in the country is very likely.
Chairman of Conference of Principals Mohamed F. Jiba assured that his members are more than ready to help in making sure that schools are reopened with conditions necessary in place. Mr. Jabi appealed to the government through the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education to ensure that the water supply in every school is safe and enough for all students and teachers.
We also prefer for the schools to be thoroughly clean and fumigated. That's also very important. Most of our schools during this period, the schools have been used for football grounds. It's where some people are gathering. Nobody knows why the virus have been dropped. So there must be that thorough cleaning of our schools, of the classrooms, to make sure the place are safe for the teachers to go back.
The representative of parents at the meeting urged stakeholders to consider vigorous and all-inclusive awareness campaign for parents to be on the same line on the reopening of schools. The meeting was convened about 2 weeks following the lifting of emergency measures meant to cope the spread of COVID-19. The move recommends the reopening of schools starting with the grade 9 transitional classes across the country. The reopening of the rest of the academic institutions are currently resting on the success of the ongoing plans at the Willy Toby building in Banjul. For iAfrica News, I am Julden Jai Suare.
And from the report there by Julden Jai, next we move to matters of the OIC, because the management of the Organization of Islamic Conference in the Gambia went on an inspection of public reserve and embarked for installation of public facilities in preparation of the 2022 OIC Summit of Head of States and Governments. This development will compel the relocation of roadside businesses along the Batin Hardin Highway and other strategic routes across the Greater Banjul areas as well as the West Coast region. The Gambia's OIC Secretary announced on Tuesday the availability of funds to construct 20 new roads, including the expansion of the Coastal Road Highway. Now, head of the communication, Fali Fadera, who described the exercise as the beginning of a comprehensive program, is on the line from the OIC Secretariat. Well, Mr. Fadera, thank you very much for joining us. Now, how much relocation will be required to install the necessary facilities in preparation of the OIC Summit in 2022?
Thanks for having me. You would kindly repeat the first part of your question. I missed the last clear. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. I hope you can hear me now. I was just asking how much have you gone with the preparations of the OIC Summit in 2022?
Oh, yes. The question is much better now. Like I said, thanks for having me. I'm pleased to be here. As you rightly said, the management of OIC Gambia and the Road Reserve Committee, which is facilitating the road construction works of the OIC projects, yesterday embarked on a mini tour of public reserve lands that are earmarked for car parks, garages, and markets across the West Coast region. Like we said in the release and intimated by you in the introduction, this is ahead of massive work that is about to take place along the Batin Hardin Highway and other parts of the Greater Banjul area. So at this stage, we are trying to see, we are trying to do all that we can to make sure that the relocation of the roadside business, roadside vendors and businesses goes forward with minimal disruption to their lives and livelihood. OIC, out of compassion and understanding that most of these vendors and businesses rely on their livelihoods for survival and sustenance, we thought it wise to look for an alternative force before moving these people, before moving the businessmen that are operating on the roadside.
All right, now talking about the movement of businesses, when is the demolition exercise going to start along the Batin Hardin Highway to the Banjul International Airport?
Well, we are not hoping to demolish any properties for now. Like I said, our approach at the OIC is a comprehensive one. We want to be as much consultative as possible. We want to talk to these businesses to make them understand that this work is about to take place, and we are here to support them. We are here to provide an alternative to make sure they move to more permanent market structures, because we have a lot of permanent structures in the West Coast region. That is one thing that stood out from the tour yesterday. We realized that within the project impact zone of the OIC project, we have a lot of reserve lands for markets, for garages, and for other commercial and social purposes. But we realized that in most cases, people abandon these structures to go and squat on the roadside to sell their products and to venture into business. Okay. So this is what we want to encourage. So we will make sure we consult we engage as much as possible to make sure that demotion will not be necessary. We don't want to go into confrontation
all right.
To use force. So
now, with your ongoing engagements, what are the major concerns of the affected communities?
Well, like I said, we are yet to formally consult. We are yet to formally engage the affected businesses and individuals. But that is something that will definitely happen. The engagement will take place because, like I said, that is our approach, that is our thinking at the OIC, because in as much as we want to get on with the construction, we also have to understand that there are people involved and their livelihoods are also involved. So that is why we are taking the more compassionate route of engaging with them to know what their concerns are. But I know, of course, when we seek to move them, we are positive that they will appreciate the fact that.
Yeah, Mr. Fadera, yes, if I can comment here, the Sadora Caravan Conference is ready. You know, what is its use at this moment?
Well, like you said, the Sadora Karabajawara International Conference Center was recently inaugurated by the president after the Chinese government handed it over to the government of the Gambia. So that handing over is being done, and as soon as those logistical and administrative issues are ironed out, the place will be open for public use. In fact, that should have been done a little bit earlier, but due to the current crisis that we find ourselves in, which is the COVID-19 pandemic, those efforts were a little bit slowed down.
Okay,
but,
just quickly now, I just want to comment again, sorry for interruption, but will the government be able to compensate all the structures, businesses to be brought down for the OIC summit?
Well, the issue of compensation is a political matter, and that is something that a comprehensive plan and policy would be developed for. So when the time comes, definitely, I'm sure we will do the needful, and all the parties involved will be happy.
Okay. Just lastly, before we let you go, what is the latest development in preparations for the OIC summit in Banjul?
Just to say that the Secretariat is on track. We are quite committed to delivering all our projects on time, to making sure that all the priority projects that we have earmarked for the summit are implemented in a timely fashion.
Mr. Fali Falera, Communication Officer of the OIC, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, there you go. And of course, that was Mr. Fali Falera speaking to us live from the OIC Secretariat in Banjul. Now, next we move to Uganda, because Ugandan activists have embarked on campaign to remove colonial symbols in the country, which according to them demonize Ugandans and African values. Well, many roads and state and public places in Africa continue to glorify former colonial rulers, but activists in Uganda want to change the narratives. Campaigners need 5,000 signatories to present their petition with a view to effect a change. Here's more details of that.
A campaign to wipe out Uganda's colonial past is gaining momentum. Activists want to clear public places of monuments, statues and symbols that glorify colonial rulers. They say street names like Colville, Speak, Gerard Porto are painful reminders of white supremacy.
In the case of Uganda, on the 9th of June this year, we celebrated our heroes and heroines. And for me, that was an opportunity to relaunch the campaign to address the faces, the symbols, the icons of a past which demean the dignity and respect of Ugandans, of Africans, which we continue to see on the streets.
This road was named after Colonel Trevor Tannen, who was a British commissioner in charge of Uganda in 1900.
There are certain names that are associated with national humiliation and continental humiliation in Africa. We do have people like Speak, who is said to have discovered Uganda and the Nile. That in itself is racist language. To discover is to see for the first time. So for somebody to claim that he saw the Nile for the first time when he was taken there by the Africans is racist language.
But there is still a debate over the selecting of new names and symbols which are also loaded with meaning.
We have to be very careful because even those symbols, since we have not resolved the national question in Uganda, we are still a nation in the making. There are still contestations. Let's not replace colonial symbols with other local symbols of humiliation as well.
In Uganda, street naming is done by the city authorities after a thorough review process. They have so far refused to comment on the growing calls to rename the streets. Campaigners need 5,000 signatures to present their proposal and are hoping this could help change race relations in Uganda and beyond.
And from the report there in Kampala, Uganda, we will now take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the stories. David Ross will be right back. Watching the World Today News Bulletin on Africa TV, and now to the rest of the stories. And of course, we should be going to the matters of the TRRC because, of course, witnesses continue to appear before the commission to testify on the ongoing hearing. Now, of course, like I said, a prison staff at the Mile 2 Central Prison testified on Wednesday that a group of the National Intelligence Agency was responsible for the torture of inmates on orders beyond the service of the prisons. Well, testimonies around conditions of the Gambia prisons began a week ago by the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission. Well, commissions after widespread allegation of systematic inhuman treatment of prisons under the former administration. Aissatou Tamba has more details of that in this report.
An assistant superintendent of police serving the Mile 2 prison told the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission that officers of the defunct National Intelligence Agency were responsible for the torture of inmates. What appeared to be the job of the NIA operatives, according to the narration of ASP Jimbo Jallo, was such that no prison officer had ever had the guts to ask for reasons of fear for reprisal. He disclosed that the former Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, Lantombong Tamba, was among those picked up from the cell for maltreatment by the NIA officers. In that instant, one Ibrahim Sise, a prison officer who was on duty, suggested for the NIA to consider some medical assistance for Tamba after the rounds of torture, but that did not go down well with the operatives. The prison officer was subsequently dismissed and detained, he said, planting for a climate of fear among prison officers under the leadership of the former Director of Prison Service, David Colley. in anything that has to do with the NIA officers.
But
after Cisse refused, that became a disaster for Cisse. Cisse was charged, they detained him, and then he was dismissed. He left work. He was dismissed like that, and he lost his work.
Jallo testified that there used to exist a particular group called chief torturers, thanks to their heartless treatment of inmates.
Mile 2. What happened at Mile 2, whether it happened in your presence or not in your presence, the beatings that happened there were too much. Because people were beaten there very well. They were taken away to the NIA. They used to come and collect them, these juntas. They will take them away.
Very seriously.
They used to beat them up very, very seriously.
Mr. Jallo said that the prison cell at Mile 2 remained overcrowded and that it was difficult for him to tell the cumulative figure of those admitted. The conditions in the Gambian prison cells are highlighted every now and then for being overcrowded, an occurrence of physical abuse coupled with inadequate sanitary environment, lack of medical care and poor diet, leading to the death of many inmates. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Aissatou Tamba.
Witnesses continue to appear before the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission. And from that report, next we head to South Africa because South Africa has an intensified effort to stem the spread of the coronavirus by conducting mass testing as the number of confirmed cases continue to increase. Health experts have welcomed the move, describing it as a right approach to deal with the situation. South Africa is the highest affected country in Africa, pushing authorities to double efforts to contain the spread of the disease. Here's more details of that.
The country's strategy has been to do mass testing to identify the true extent of the spread of the virus. But experts say using that approach poses a problem.
Mass testing is a good thing if you've got the resources to do it. But we don't. There is a shortage of test kits. Not only in South Africa, all around the world, but we are competing with America, for example, for these test kits from a variety of different companies.
Health authorities are looking at other options, like contact tracing, until more test kits become available, especially in hotspots.
However, for places like the Western Cape, where we now have a surge in infections, I don't know if contact tracing is useful unless you can get those results within 24 hours.
Healthcare professionals are learning more about this new virus every day, and they say using only one approach to deal with the pandemic isn't the solution.
As a continent, as a country, we need to be very agile and very aware of the changing circumstances and be able to change in accordance with that.
That changing strategy was announced by the South African Health Minister recently. The country is now moving from mass testing to targeted testing in hotspots.
You're probably wasting a lot of tests on people who are negative. Now, by focusing on the hotspot, you are actually getting those people who are probably positive. So I think that is a changing strategy and probably a good one. However, even that, when you are in a situation where you have really constrained resources, it might still be better to reserve those tests for those that really need it.
While South Africa has crossed that million number mark in terms of testing, it's about managing resources and keeping that ammunition dry as we build up to that peak.
South Africa doing more testing to trace COVID-19 cases in the country. And from that report, finally, we head to Nigeria because Nigerian doctors have begun an indefinite strike over government's failure to consider the welfare of frontline health workers. More than 200 doctors have contracted the coronavirus, out of which 10 have died, making health workers among the hardest hit in the country. As the number of coronavirus cases continue to rise, this latest move may hamper the country's efforts to contain the pandemic. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Resident doctors in Nigeria making good their threats to commence an indefinite strike. The strike follows the expiry of a 14-day ultimatum they had issued to authorities. The government and the medical union failed to agree on improved welfare terms for health workers.
Our demands are basic demands that borders on the health, the well-being, and the abilities of doctors to offer care to Nigerians. As you are aware, the Nigerian doctors practicing at the moment are not having life insurance. What that means is that when a doctor dies, that's the end of it for his family. We are also demanding that personal protective equipment be made abundantly available in our hospitals so that we have a reduced chance of getting infected.
The National Association of Resident Doctors represent about 40% of doctors in Nigeria. With rising numbers of COVID-19 cases and deaths, many fear the strike action could hamper the nation's capacity to tackle the pandemic. But the union is making an exemption for medics treating COVID-19 patients.
We have exempted the isolation and treatment center. At the end of the 2 weeks grace we have given for the isolation and treatment center, we shall be co-opting our members from the isolation and treatment center to join the strike, and it shall continue till when the government feels it's necessary to address our concerns.
So far, 10 doctors have died of COVID-19. 227 others have been infected, and over 800 health workers are under a watch list of possible infections. Health workers' strikes aren't uncommon in Nigeria, where the health sector has remained underfunded. Many medics have left the country for greener pastures. There are rising concerns that this trend could further weaken the already fragile health sector.
And with that report there in Nigeria, we now finally brings this news bulletin to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, you can also log on our website on africa.tv. But once again, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and bye for now.
Even if you want lampican, you want Casper or Jibe. Eh, coach for Phila Banta. Could you feel like Casper or Sana?
What about a swoop with a what's the wrong Mamma Mandiba? Hello, Mamma. Abijan drunk for Taran. To Korimbala, Yundi man and Casper will a sign. Ha, Bantan had a penty. Yo, okay, Mabakuna. Abarka Bakayami.
Maria.
No.
Ite Momodu Batara no Batala Banco Canyadi, like a Casper or Kini Tajan, sign.
Godo, Femalon Copalu, Yakela Fatena. If a Bantala Banco can dawoda, it's a Casper Kino Kanagam. Adabat Tariari Yami, Abasonia Wolfanaya.
Inyanta minkela dorong walanka log onto www.baluo.com. Ye prepaid electricity sang minka bonale electricity company solto mimbale Gambia Banko Kanjang, Senegal, Mali, Nigeria and in Sierra Leone.
Assalamu alaikum musidɓe am fulɓe, on calminama neɗɗo fof kala ɗo woni e inde muɗum e yettode muɗum. E ko kibaru gimmorɗo en to TRRC bangal biyetegal TRRC. Eɗen fof eɗen gandi TRRC ko député ɓe men darningal damal ɗi darna tan fi humpitade bonandeji bannoɗi e nder laamu Yaya Jammeh, ɗum woni gila July 1994 aranma ha January 2017. ɗum noon waɗi ha TRRC ɗi ñaago yimɓe ɓe ganduɗama hoorema kala mo ganduɗa ka kippanoɗo walla aɗa heɓno mette yoɓe bakkilo ɓe punta. haalgol noon e télé wona forcé e haalgol e télé wona forcé kono noon kala jiɗɗo haalde e télé kadi TRRC ɗi jogani ɗum e damuɗe e folo woni a wawat ar kala he télé yimɓe jiiya ko hombo haalta ɗo mo ganduɗa ɗum weɓirani ɗum kadi ɓenne kadi ɓe jogui bangal gongal ɗum woni jomirawo on o haala kono taw haala makko ka waylitte goɗɗo andata ko hombo haalta ɗon so wona ɗum taɓɓel ngel woni jomirawo on haala kono yeeso makko ngo funtata e télé he so wona ɗum noon kadi e jomirawo on no wawi wakkilo o ara o okkira statement makko kala mo ganduɗa o yiɗa haal o yiɗa funtine he télé o yiɗa ɗemgal makko wayle kono konngol makko no wawi waɗede record ko min mbiyata statement tekas ɗum woni yimɓe bindoɓe ɓe ɓanga konngol e yimɓe ɗi ɗum noon kala jiɗɗo ɗum minen jogui victim support unit ɓen mbawa ɗon haalande no mbaɗirton nombaji mabɓe noni 7704988 7704988 7704988 so wona ɗum aɗa wawi noddu statement tekas ɗum woni yimɓe ɓe ganduɗama hoorema ko ɓen ƴettata konnguli moɗon hen oɗo number 7415937 7415937 7415937 ko oɗo woni kibaru ceniɗo gimmorɗo en to TRRC on jarama